Is that good? Can you hear me? Test, test, test. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Uh-oh, there we go. That's a little better. Okay, let's do that.
Back in my day.
All right, to get it over there, you might have to just microphone. You're gonna play something with audio.
I'm sorry, I just had to. Oh, it's kind of fun.
It'll get it started with.
Yeah, I know.
Let me do this. Let me see if I can get it open. Start serving.
Oh, I don't miss some there. Not.
Have you got everybody?
I got yours.
Yeah, and then you're crazy with something to drink to be a school week, but he's got, and then y'all didn't order. So
Special T-Rex with a Caesar.
So, but has he stayed there? Yeah, but it does for sure. Mine was supposed to be right here.
Come to our line.
Hey guys, let's get started. I know John's got to get back to Baton Rouge, so if you could please stand. We're going to open up with a word of prayer. I'm going to find my friend John back here in the back who likes to open with. Is that okay, John? Are you? Excuse me, John.
Thank you for bringing the mic to me. Instead of me crutching all the way up. Bow with me if you would. Heavenly Father, thank you so much, Lord, for just being your children, for your love, your grace, and your mercy. Father, thank you for another glorious, beautiful day today. And Father, we ask that the food that we're about to partake, that it be a blessing to us. And Lord, be with Doc as he makes a presentation to us today. And Father, just give all of us peace and courage to know that everything that is taking place around us in this world is according to your will. And that no matter what happens, either your son's coming back and we will celebrate that glorious moment, or that you will expose everything and the world will only be able to say it's of your hand. We love you, Father. We commit ourselves to you, and we ask that you give us an opportunity each and every day to be a small reflection in some way to someone who needs the light, the love, and the beauty of your Son. We pray this in his precious name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Now the flag's back here too, so if you'll join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks, y'all. Go ahead and be seated. I think we're going to start out with a short video, and I'm going to pass the microphone. Actually, what are we going to do? How do we do this? Well, I'll do an introduction. How's that? So go ahead and do your video, and then we'll get started. We didn't test this before we got started, so we're going to technical difficulties.
Why don't you sing for us, honey?
So you want to increase the crowd, or do you want everybody running for the hills?
Give it a try, Mike. You can do it. No, me either. Can you dance? I can't dance either.
So we have no audio?
It's this is the laptop audio. It's not very loud. So
It sounds
Put the
like,
mic to it?
Yeah, put the mic
Put the mic to the speaker.
Yeah.
it sounds like we need to work a bit on our AV.
How's I-49 working out?
How's I-49?
Yeah, well, no. 45.
Has he caught you off guard?
We can just cut that. It's obviously we have
You can
audio.
sum it up for us, John.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll do it live, I suppose. All right. You can put a background up if you want. If you've got a nice treasurer logo or something, that'd be fun. All right, so I don't know if y'all actually need me to introduce.
no, sir.
Yeah, we don't know.
Dr. John, right from, can you sing like Dr. John?
Yeah.
Can't see it.
All right, so Dr. Fleming, I mean, really, I don't know how to introduce you. He worked for Donald Trump for a little while. He was a congressman for a little while. He's kind of a jack of all trades, doctor, small business owner. He's done everything, been everywhere, so he knows where the gotchas are in our local government, and our state government, and our federal government. And he's working diligently to get a lot of that stuff fixed. Because we've been, I'd say it's been neglected for quite some time, and we all know, we've had a terrible governor for 8 years who has pretty much, put our economy in the ditch and everything else. So I'm excited to have a full house of all of our statewide elected officials who are now Republicans. So, here's hoping that we can work together, right, and not have all this cat herding stuff that we're famous for. So at any rate, so John is, I lost, here we go. So John is here, and the picture on the screen we saw a minute ago was the Ronald Reagan Newsmaker Lunch in Baton Rouge, where he was speaking at. And so this is kind of a little tour they're doing now, where they're going across the state. Is this your second stop, or is it like your fifth?
Well, I'll explain.
Okay.
Just go ahead.
All right, well, I'm going to
Yeah,
hand
I'll explain
over
it all.
to Dr. Fleming, and we're going to get started here. Hopefully the food will not be too long.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Michael. Thank you so very much. Yes, thank you. So I'll give you some explanations of what's been going on up here. First of all, this little video, which was very nicely done, was actually done by Jordan, and they did it yesterday, and I didn't even know about it until last night. So I've only seen it once myself. They did a very nice job. It's basically taking you through a little bit of the campaign, but also when I was sworn in on January 8th. And I think they just wanted to show you a nice little collage of events that we've had in the last couple of months. So today, as I understand it, you all know Woody Jenkins, right? I mean, Woody Jenkins is by himself an institution in Louisiana.
Yes.
Well, he is head of our outreach department in the state treasury. I don't know if you knew that. I appointed him for that position. So he's been with us. He actually led my transition team. And so, so he is, when I say outreach, I mean public, private, the governor's office, the legislature, everywhere. But something he's done for years in Baton Rouge is he's had this Ronald Reagan Luncheon where he has speakers. And what he's doing is now advancing this across the state. So the second one we did, which was the maiden voyage for New Orleans, was in New Orleans. And now this is the third one that we're doing. So he wants this to be a regular monthly affair. And so he wants me to be the first speaker at each of the new ones. So that's basically why I'm here today, if that makes any sense to you. And we'll get to question and answers because I know I'm hearing questions already about various things. Just to recap for a lot of you who I am and why I'm here today, I just grew up in a working class home, came from nothing, worked my way through college, went to medical school where I grew up in Mississippi, and then went into the military. I was a Navy doctor for 6 years. And after that, I brought my little family, my wife and 2 little girls. They were still, one was 2 and I think the other was an infant, in 1982 to start a medical practice in Minden, Louisiana. Because I'm a board certified family physician. I still practice from time to time, still have an operating medical clinic in Minden after all these years. And so built a practice there that was quite successful. Became interested in entrepreneurship, so I began to open companies which still operate today and employ over 350 Louisianans. And that went well for a while, but I got bored with that too. So I decided to run for Congress and ended up getting elected. And that was in 2009, served from 2009 to 2016. And I was one of the leaders to push back against and to stop Obamacare, which I said at the time that there's nothing in this bill that will lower the cost of care. Streamline it, make it more efficient. There's nothing in that. What it will do is to push the cost onto the middle class. And that's exactly what has happened. You today are spending out of pocket more than ever. Your premiums are higher than ever if you can get good coverage. And there's nothing in our healthcare system that actually seeks to lower costs. Now, if you go to the store and buy apparel, if you go to the dealership to buy a car, I don't care what it is on our economy, you're going to get the best and at the best price if you shop. Why? Because of transparency. You know what you're buying. You can seek information. You go to the car lot. My daughter bought a car a couple of months ago, and I went with her to help her. And first thing we asked for is, let's see the Carfax, right? Because you want to see if it's been in a wreck, if there's been any mechanical problems or whatever with it. You can get everything you need about everything you buy in this economy except for health care. That you pretty much have to take what you're given at the cost you're given. And so what we have is more and more people in the wagon and fewer people pulling the wagon in our healthcare system. That's why your costs keep going up, and they will continue to go up until we finally reform healthcare in the correct way, which I'm still working with the Trump campaign to be a part of that, because when Trump is reelected, and he will be reelected, there will be a 2.0 reform in our healthcare system, bringing it back, starting with transparent pricing and delivery of services. That's what we need. Now, yes, there are things that you can't shop around for. So if someone here today has a heart attack, God forbid, and we call for an ambulance, we're not going to negotiate while you die, okay? That just isn't going to happen. But that's really a small percentage of the healthcare system cost. The greater percentage is what doctor you go to, what x-ray imaging center you go to, what surgical center you go to, what surgeon does the surgery, or treats you in some other way. All of that can be competitive pricing and quality today. We have the technology to make that happen, but it isn't in the system. And trust me, doctors don't like it either. They feel it works against them. There are forces much higher and at much more national or regional level that are benefiting from this lack of transparency and the lack of ability to shop. Doctors know it, and you know it as patients. And Obamacare basically put that on steroids. So we can fix our healthcare system, but it's going to take major work in Washington to do that. So I fought against that, but we lost because there was just too many Democrats who were all in for this and behind Nancy Pelosi. While I was there, I led the effort to impeach Hoskins, who is then the head of the IRS. And I can't believe I did that, because I figured I'll probably get an audit right afterwards, but I didn't. I couldn't believe it. But remember, he was the one who protected Lois Lerner when she was not allowing Tea Party groups and so forth to do what they needed to do, which was to bring America back again And they stood in the way to do that. So I also am one of the 9 founders of the House Freedom Caucus, which people didn't seem to know about until well, first of all, we threw out John Boehner, who was our famous leader, the Speaker of the House. But unfortunately, he was working way too much with Democrats to push Democrat Obama policies. But until Trump was persecuted for colluding with Russia and all that, people didn't really know about the House Freedom Caucus. But they're notable members. Ron DeSantis was one of the founders. Mark Meadows, who was Chief of Staff for President Trump, was one of the founding members. Jim Jordan and others. And they still do great work today, holding accountable our Republican leadership. Because if you don't hold them accountable, they're going to play with the Democrats, trust me. You've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. So then I ran for Senate, but I was up against a very difficult foe in John Kennedy, who had been treasurer. Coincidentally, he was treasurer for 17 years and had run for the third time to become a senator. So I just couldn't overcome his reputation and name ID. But I did build one of my own, which helped me get elected this time overwhelmingly, as did Liz Merle and others, as you know. We had a great night on November 18th. So, I didn't know a lot about being treasurer, honestly. I found out as much as I could, but there wasn't, until you're in the office, you don't really know much. Basically, the treasurer's office has 3 main functions. Number 1 is to invest and control and protect the money that's paid in, both from taxpayers, but also from other revenue sources and from the federal government. We get a lot of money from the federal government, as you know. Number 2 is the bond commission, which I find is a very, very important part of what we do in Louisiana. And that's approving loans, mainly for infrastructure purchases, done by local communities, parishes, cities, and so forth. The Calcasieu Bridge, which I'm sure you guys think about and talk about a lot. We just recently approved that. I know there's some controversy with it, but that's our job, is to, if all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, there's no harm understood by, and it's supported by the legislature and the governor and so forth, then we approve it. Our job is to be sure that it's a sustainable loan and that it will be paid for and that the debt service can be made. And then lastly is unclaimed property, which really is the most popular part of the Treasury's function, and that is to give you back your money that somehow got trapped in state government. And we're anxious to do that. In fact, I'm beefing the program up because we have a backlog. People should not have to wait for their money. So we're working hard to get that backlog. In fact, it's already going down. But we're bringing in some more service providers, third parties, who are going to handle the telephones and things like that. But trust me, the chances are you have some money owed to you. Simply go to the website and do a search on your name, and chances are you'll come up with something. Every time I've done it, I come up with it. Unfortunately, it's only a few bucks for me. But there have been some pretty big hits. I think one guy who was actually homeless ended up, he had inherited like $200,000 from a relative that he apparently was an heir for. And this was really in the last administration, but they had to track him down and gave him his money. Last I heard, he's got his own place and he's doing well. So, we try to make as much light of those kind of things as we possibly can. So what are some of the things we're working on today? Well, one of the first things was the issue about Governor Abbott in Texas protecting the Texas border from invasion. And our governor has deployed, as you know, or has approved the deployment of Louisiana National Guardsmen to go down there and help the Texas authorities with their border. And I came in full support of that. When he did his announcement in the Capitol, he had me stand next to him as someone who stands fully behind that effort. We should do what we can in that, and it's actually working. They're now, the immigrants are now being pushed further west. They're not coming across Texas border the way they were because of the wire, and I think they're putting all sorts of barriers up that make it difficult for them to do that. And of course, they're getting no help from the Biden administration. Biden is actually blaming Republicans for all the laws and the rules that he pulled back the first day in the office when he replaced Trump. So, what else are we working on? Currently the crime bill, or I should say, we have a special crime session, and we're supporting the governor's efforts to get crime under control in Louisiana, up to and including the AG and certainly the state police force, especially in problem areas like New Orleans. Remember, New Orleans is the marquee location in our state. When people think of Louisiana, they think of New Orleans. Now, I'm from Minden. Minden is like 3.5, 4 hours from New Orleans. But if people ask me where I'm from, I say I'm from Minden, Louisiana, and they go, "Oh, is that right next to New Orleans?" We are a New Orleans-centric state. And so we got to make New Orleans. Moon Griffon, everybody. Let's give him a round of applause. All right. Yeah,
Michael Lunch's fault. He told me the other person. I was in Lake Charles.
Oh, okay. There you go. But here's the thing, and I'm glad Moon is here for this, because Moon played a big part in this. So I had heard off and on about this merger between Elevance, or actually Elevance, buying Blue Cross Blue Shield. Y'all familiar with this issue?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I asked around about it. I go, "What is this about?" They go, "I don't know, but it's probably inevitable because the big entities eat up the little entities, and then you get maybe better services overall and maybe lower cost because things are streamlined, right?" Well, that's fine, but we began to look into it. Especially when the Senate had a hearing. They had a full-day hearing on this. And I was also briefed on some behind-the-scenes depositions that were done. And so after some debate and discussion, and right after the Louisiana State Medical Society and the specialty societies came out, we decided, in fact, I was the only statewide elected official who came out to oppose it. And then it began to unravel. What we found was, of course, the part that I was most interested in was, what does this mean when it comes to denial of care, flattening reimbursements to physicians, which means fewer doctors available for care, and those sort of things. But there were many other questionable issues, and the way they were going about it, the process of voting, it was like a big yes, for heaven's sake, vote for this thing, and then down there was a little no that you could check as well, right? And the whole process seems to be unfair, biased. Supposedly they spent $20 million in campaign funds. Moon came out opposing it. As far as, am I speaking correctly for you? I know he was unhappy when he heard about it, because we talked about that. I spoke about it on the show. And look, sometimes you do have these mergers, and you do get good results. You get streamlining of overhead and cost. That's what I want to see as a healthcare provider myself. However, when we talked to other states about this, what we found out is they had been charged with fraud. They had been fined millions of dollars for denial of care, delay of payment, all the things you don't want from an insurance company. So the CEO, Dr. Carl Utterheit, I think is how you say his name. I asked him to say it for me 3 times so I could learn it. The spelling doesn't look anything like the sound. Anyway, he tried to convince me to change my mind. And I said, well, you're a doctor, I'm a doctor. We make decisions based on data. So I see a lot of data that says this is a bad idea. So tell me the data that says I should support this, and he had none. He told me that they did have a lot. He just didn't give it to me. So, so anyway, it is paused for now. In its current form, I don't think it'll happen, but I do foresee that it could come back again.
It's coming back.
Now, the predecessor of Elevance is Anthem Health. And I've seen things where they publish support of and the payment for certain kind of surgeries on minors in the non-binary space. Mutilating surgeries that does not meet the, in my opinion, the values of the people of Louisiana.
No.
And I can tell you as a physician, that's a very bad idea. Look, this whole non-binary thing, it works like a lot of other things with young people. Remember when just about every kid, particularly females for some reason, were anorexic or bulimic? Remember that back in the 80s? You hardly hear about it anymore. So often young people are unhappy. I know there were times I was unhappy when I was a teenager. We all go through this. And we look for solutions. Why am I unhappy? Oh, I get it. I'm in the wrong body. I should have been in the other. And so that is problematic. Now, I don't mean in any way to trivialize the fact that some people really do feel that they are in the wrong gender body. This phenomenon does exist. And, you know, it should be respected. However, I don't think taxpayers should pay for transformational surgeries. I don't think that children should be left to people who have a financial gain in providing those surgeries. And I don't think that parents should be overruled or trumped in this decision making. So, you know, if you're 21 years old and you're willing to pay for transitional surgery and you know a doctor who's willing to do it, as an American, you're free to do that. But I don't think that I think with young people, we need to give them the ability and time to think through this and really resolve whatever problems they have in their lives. And in most cases, they will transition, I shouldn't use that word, they will morph out of that, and, you know, they'll be happy and well adjusted. We have so many people now who come back and want to reverse their transitional surgery. And they're messed up. I mean, it's permanent. You can only do so much to reverse the damage that's been done. So anyway, in its previous form, Anthem, they were all in on that. So I can only assume that their plans would be to the $2.5 billion plus, if they want to roll into a foundation to improve health care in Louisiana. You can only imagine what their plans might be. And I asked him specifically about that, and he couldn't give me anything specific. He says, well, you know, we have some of the lowest health care standards here in Louisiana. People are overweight, people smoke too much, they eat bad, we have more heart attacks. All these things are true, but there was nothing in any of the documentation that said that they were going to specifically target those diseases or those problems. We just don't know. We'd have to trust them to do that. And I'm not one who trusts people with $2.5 billion without some commitment as to what, you know, in writing, what they're planning to do. Anyway, we may hear more for that. What else do we have coming? I was just asked by the gentleman at the door there from Channel 15, I believe it is, local TV, about the state income tax. I do believe we should end the personal income tax in Louisiana. Not just because I think it's the wrong tax and an unjust tax, but because I do think that that is repelling a lot of people from coming to our state and living, setting up their businesses and so forth. Now he points out, well then what do you replace it with? Well, I don't have an answer yet to that, but we can find one. Well, how does Texas replace theirs? How does Tennessee and Florida? Right. And we don't want to end up in a high property tax state. Now, part of the reason why Texas has high property tax is because people are moving there at such a rate they're driving up the price of real estate.
It's been like that for a long time.
Right, but the point is
They have
that,
better roads and better schools than we do.
exactly, they have better roads, better schools. In other words, they're in a positive feedback loop. For whatever reason, those property taxes are elevated. They're doing very well. People are leaving Louisiana to create businesses and jobs. In fact, they're moving their headquarters in many
It could
cases.
be the political scene also. Who's in
That-
charge over there and who's in charge over here.
Right. One thing that I met with folks today, that you may hear a little about later, is there is a third-party vendor in the digital space called open.gov. And what they do is try to make government more transparent. They're already doing that in some areas of our government. But what we want to do is put our schools, our public school system into that. Now, they already have a website that discloses things like their budgets and, you know, how they're doing as far as their grading as a school, but it's not very easy to understand or measure. What this website will do is really make it very obvious and available to you. And from that, we need to consider what I think is going to be emerging in the next decade, and that is school choice and vouchers. Because if schools are not competing for those dollars and for those students, they're going to get by with the minimum necessary in order to continue the way things are. And as a result of that status quo, we have so many schools that are doing poorly today. The best way to make schools competitive and teach students and stay with those students and make sure they're successful is they need to compete for that. And if they're doing a good job, then they keep their funding. If they don't, they go out of business like any other business. So that's something that we're working on even today. So there's so much more that we need to do, but I wanted to be sure that you know the latest thing that we're working on. And I can tell you, as a statewide elected official, I'm happy to weigh in on anything, whether it's involved in the treasury or otherwise. I think you need someone speaking for you from government and to you about whatever's going on that I may or may not agree with. I may not agree with the governor all the time. I may not agree with the AG all the time. I'm just going to tell you the way I see things and make sure that you have all the facts so you can make your decision going forward. So in a moment, I'm going to open up for questions, but I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your support in the previous campaign. I see a lot of familiar faces that were at so many of these meetings where I gave speeches, and of course, Ms. Buckles, was a lot of things, and Charlie was helping me a lot along the way, helped me get the state party endorsement, which I think was so key and everything. And just one other thing before, again, I take questions. Some of you may or may not be aware that I was in the Trump administration all 4 years. First, I was at Health and Human Services for 2 years, where I worked on healthcare digital devices that doctors work on and curse at constantly in their offices, trying to make it better for them so they could do a better job for you. Then I went on I was appointed to lead the Economic Development Administration, where I had to be Senate confirmed. I actually got Chuck Schumer's vote, and I'm still questioning myself about that. It's not something I brag about, but I pondered it. I don't know how it happened. Anyway, I did that for a while, and we were instrumental once the pandemic came in to helping businesses stay up through the shutdowns that were occurring. And then finally, I was brought over to the White House, West Wing of the White House. I was Deputy Chief of Staff, working with Mark Meadows for the last 11 months. I worked on everything. I was part of the coronavirus task force, where I worked with none other than the infamous Fauci, Dr. Fauci. I saw him change his mind 180 degrees several times. And his first decision was based on no data, and his second reversal decision was based on no data. That's the reason why we all got confused throughout the pandemic. It's whatever he felt like at the time. And he had nothing to back up what he said. I also worked on personnel, and basically I handled whatever came to the Chief of Staff's office that was not handled directly by the President and the Chief of Staff himself, which they were very busy, as you know. So anyway, thank you so much for having me for launching the Reagan Luncheon here in Lafayette. Hopefully we're going to be doing this for many years. Thank you. Okay, bring the questions on.
Your predecessor, John Schroeder, had moved away a lot of the Louisiana funds from these ESG companies, and I was wondering if you would follow some of those same kind of principles.
Okay. His question was about ESG. Y'all know what that environmental, social, and governance. So many of these companies now, BlackRock is the one known the most, are investing for two reasons. Number one, a return on investment, and number two, to get back kind of a social, if you will, woke reward for the investment of that money. And unfortunately, the two are diametrically opposed to one another. You can either put your money into something that will give you no return and make you feel good, or you can actually put it in something that will give you a return. And I can prove that. During the campaign, I researched this. The University of Chicago did a study of 20,000 Morningstar rated funds. And they segmented them in the ESG group and in the non-ESG group. The best ESG return was less than the worst non-ESG return. That's how much different, divergent. So I believe that we should invest our money responsibly but wisely in funds, in investments that give us the best return. And look, if you want to change society or culture or whatever, fine. Get elected to the legislature or to Congress, or be an influencer and make changes there. But to put money into, well, I'll just go back. You've heard about, we've got carbon capture starting here in Louisiana. We've got, during the campaign, I called a guy, bless his heart, he's a sweet man and he's been a good friend. He was a farmer for years, but he hit it big with the Haynesville Shale, so he became very wealthy with that. But then when I called him this time, now he's leasing his land out for these solar panels, solar farms. But he's very, very conservative, and I'm going, why are you doing this? And he said, because it pays good. Well, why does it pay good? Not because it actually makes money, it's because it's well underwritten by the subsidies from the government. And the same is true of carbon capture. By themselves, they don't make anything. They lose money. And the classic case when I was in Congress was Fleming, that was going to steal the market to manufacture solar panels from the Chinese. It never got off the ground, but we lost $530 million that was lent to them. The money went to politicians, it went into the pockets of executives, it went to the Democrats and the left wing. That's where the money went. It didn't work, it's not going to work. Look, if there's a technology that comes along, whether it's solar or hydrogen or whatever, and it's competitive against natural gas and other fossil fuels, fine. I'm okay with that. It doesn't matter to me. Of course, hydraulic, like the Hoover Dam and so forth, does great, and it's very environmentally friendly and so forth. But it's got to make it on the basis of return on investment. And so that's the reason why I agree with John Schroeder, who pulled money out of BlackRock because the money was being invested into so-called ESG investments. So if that's a long answer to a short question. Yes, sir.
Along the ESG line, what do you stand for BRI, biblically responsible investing?
Biblically responsible investing. I'm going to have to learn about that because give me an example.
Well, companies like Lilly that support abortion bills, companies like Netflix that support pornography, I run a mutual fund, and
Right.
I'm 100% VRI.
Sure.
So I know a lot about that industry, and
Right.
I think it's something you should maybe consider.
Well,
Our money.
I've thought about it. Now, what he's talking about is, well, what about gambling? Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have gambling in Casablanca, right? We have gaming. What about pornography? What about marijuana? Marijuana. Should we be investing in these things? And I think that is something that we need to look at as a state, because look at Colorado. Colorado has gone all in on approving and legalizing marijuana. And they say they're going to make a lot of money from it. Well, actually, the revenues on it are far below. And the reason why is because if you see somebody smoking pot, do you know whether it's legal pot or is it illegal pot? You don't know. Chances are it's illegal, which means that the legal pot can't compete with the illegal pot because they don't have to pay taxes, right? So look at the social cost. What's happening in Colorado today? Everything from car accidents to emergency room things. It's costing them a lot of money, and I would suggest to you it's costing them more money to legalize it than it is to make money on the revenue. So I do I've never heard it called VRI investing, but I'm very interested in talking more about that, because I do think, now I don't agree with everything that, I mean, there are things that we invest in that may or may not meet my personal criteria, but so I have to be aware of what the people of Louisiana want. But I think it's important for me, particularly as a physician, to say to you, is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to getting into these things? A little more complicated than ESG, but I think just as important. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Hey, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the administration's decision to turn down federal funds to feed low-income kids through the summer EBT program. Was that the right call?
I'd have to get more detail on that. When did this occur?
This was very recently. The Landry administration decided that they did not want to participate in the summer EBT program this year. I think foregoing about $66 million in federal funds that would have fed kids.
Did the administration give a reason for?
Yeah, I think the reason that was given was that families should basically work harder to feed their kids.
I see. Well, yeah, go ahead.
There was an article in the Advocate.
We have someone here. Go ahead.
There was an article in the Advocate recently. The new DSF head, the DCFS, said it would have cost his agency $10 million, and his budget in the past 8 years has been cut and cut and cut.
You mean in matching funds?
Right.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. The matching funds would cost him $10 million. So he said he had no other choice but to oppose it because, you know, as you're aware, DCFS is in a serious state of affairs right now. So that's one of the major reasons why that money was not available. And of course,
So if there's a match required by the state, you have to look at it on your state budget. The other problem that we saw coming out of the pandemic, everything from temporary and permanent forgiving of school debt, college debt, to the interlocking of if you qualify for one program, you qualify for all programs. And what business owners have found in the last 3 years is they cannot get people to take jobs or even apply for jobs because so many people are able to subsist well on simple government benefits that they don't even have to work. Now, a lot of those have been peeled back over the last year, and now you see people returning to work. But I do think there is a point when you do so much for so many people who are fully capable of working and earning their own living and contributing to their own income that you can't do everything for everybody. We run out of money, you know, and that's, remember what Margaret Thatcher said, that socialists believe that you can spend other people's money as much as you want. That's fine until you run out of other people's money, right? And we're running out of other people's money. I'll give you just a quick example on the federal level. When I went to Congress, we had $11 trillion in debt that was built up from George Washington to Barack Obama. When I left, it was, when Trump came in, it was up to 22 trillion. It's now approaching 33, 34 trillion. And debt service alone will be our largest itemized part of our budget very soon. Even bigger than that, than national defense, right? Approaching $1 trillion. So this is unsustainable. We do have to ask people to contribute to their own lives. And ask people that if you're a parent, if you choose to be a parent, you do have to stand up and take care of your kids. You got to do your part. Now, we have a very good safety net system here. Many would say it's too strong, but we have one nonetheless. So if people fall down on their luck, they have problems, we're going to help them. But we can't subsidize every single citizen through life. That's just unsustainable. Pretty soon we'll collapse as a society.
The other thing was,
Yeah,
that lady asked about that, because I've checked into that.
Yeah.
There's other programs that do that. And it was duplicate,
Right.
a way to take a little money back. This program's for kids, reading, the mayor in New Orleans, they're feeding breakfast, lunch, and supper. There's programs in the summer that feed them, so they was duplicate, and they said, wait, we can save a few dollars here. So still think you're gonna see kids get fed in the summer to programs. Every time somebody says here's federal money, it's like, you gotta take it. The attitude I get with everybody is, well, if they're giving it, it's free. And none of it's free, so when it stops, we're gonna really have poor and hungry people. Because it's gonna stop. And that was, I read that, I'm glad you asked a great question, because, you know, you can't kind of think that's ours helping children, but there's so many other programs doing the same thing.
And some of these families, I guess, they feel in duplication is that they're already getting a large amount of food stamps, whatever,
Right.
that should be used in summertime.
And that's
So
often
duplication,
used
but
as
still
a,
my heart is
Right.
concerned about this.
and a lot of times there's so much in the way of duplicate programs and extra interlocking programs if they're used in the black market to create cash. Yeah, I mean, we all want these things, we want to help poor people, but at some point you just create dependency, and we don't want that. That's not good for us, and it's unsustainable. We don't want a situation where everybody is now going under because, I mean, look at inflation. Why do we have inflation? Because there's just too much money put into circulation. President Biden signed into law trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, more than any president, within the first year of his administration. Remember the infrastructure bill? It was the mother of all infrastructure bills. Is our infrastructure any better in Louisiana?
No.
Most of the money went to climate change stuff. That's where the money went. And so there's no net benefit to that.
I'd like to make a comment. Thank you for what you do, and
Sure.
I wish you a lot of luck in being our state treasurer. You said something earlier that made me think about the solar panels and stuff. That's one of the things that our mayor president is going to be pushing for, a factory being brought here in Lafayette to build solar panels. So they need to work on that I-49 connector to make sure that they have the roads prepared to handle that load. And I have a lot of concerns and issues because of what was brought up in the past about the contamination where they want to put the pylons. So I do appreciate you saying that just because you're our state treasurer, you don't just look at that. You're a very smart man, because if you're gonna do good for all people in our state, you're gonna be wise enough to look at every single thing that touches the lives of all citizens in our state and ask questions. And I wanna say this because a lot of times in legislation, they only wanna hear from the people that agree with what the agenda they wanna push forward. Well, I'm begging you to have everyone listen to the people who are in opposition of what you want to do. That is where you're gonna get your greatest knowledge, and that's where you can bridge the gap. So, good luck to you. And
Well, thank you for the compliment of being a smart man. I'm gonna give you my wife's phone number. And I would like you to straighten her out on that question.
All right, but if I see you not being smart, I'm gonna let you know.
Okay.
I have a question. The illegal immigrants that are coming into our state, how much is that costing us?
I'm sorry, who?
The illegals that are coming
Illegals,
into our
yes.
state, how much is that costing us?
Well, I don't know a number on that. One of the things I'm wondering is, are we seeing that many illegals in Louisiana? Now, why do I ask that question? If we can't even get illegals to come to Louisiana, how can we get the middle class to come, right? I mean, is it that bad? Because, you know, they're not good jobs here. They're not good paying jobs. I mean, there are some, but we're not competing with other states where those jobs are. And so, not that I'm encouraging, I do not want this to be a sanctuary state. But it does raise the question of, if even illegals are not coming here in large numbers, why is it that we're right next to a state at the same latitude that has basically the same people that are here, and many of them are from here, same climate, same everything, but they're getting all the dollars and they're getting all the jobs, and we're not. And what I want to do is reach out to other states, look at best practices. Again, ending the personal income tax is, I think, a good start. It may not do a whole lot by itself, but what it can do is send a message far and wide. We're open for business. We want you to come here. We're going to welcome you here. We want you to be part of our culture, and there are going to be good jobs here, and you're going to find good employees here. I think it could have a very strategic purpose far beyond just the fact that you're paying less dollars down in Baton Rouge.
One of the impediments to
Oh, there's your microphone.
One of the impediments to businesses coming here is the fact that we make it so difficult for them, especially people with multiple locations around the state. Centralized sales tax collection failed the last time. Will you help to promote that next time?
To promote
Centralized sales tax collection.
Oh, yes. That's been discussed for years now. In the beginning, I had a question about that, because does that mean that the decisions come out of Baton Rouge as to what the taxes are? As long as the decisions are made locally, but collected centrally, I'm all for it, because it's a more streamlined, better way to do it. And also businesses, look, if you have a business with multiple locations like that, you get tax bills from different directions in different media forms, and you got to hire extra people just to process all of that. So I think it'd be a more efficient way to handle things, as long as local taxes are decided on a local basis, as they are today.
And would you, as treasurer,
do a long-term study on all of these special taxing districts that we have, TIFs, pilots, EDDs, all that, because our state is lousy with them, and it really is difficult, even from that standpoint, when you have multiple locations,
Right.
and you may be paying different taxes even within the same jurisdiction.
Right. That may be out of our jurisdiction, but we could reach out to revenue. That's their job, is to decide those things and run those studies. But I'd love to work with them on that, absolutely.
They do go through the bond commission.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. John, for being here. I appreciate you reaching out, because sometimes the people, they elect our officials, don't have much contact. And so I think this is a great move on your part to participate in this. We're talking about making our state more attractive my family's been in Louisiana since the 1700s, so.
Right.
So we're not going anywhere. But, not everybody is able to do that. To stick together as a family, to stay and support
Right.
what we believe is a really wonderful, beautiful state. And personally, I'm a retired educator, teacher, coach, principal. And I witnessed over the years a decline, steady decline in our public school system, which is really the backbone of our education in the state. We have wonderful private parochial schools, charter schools and such, but really, we're gonna rise and fall on the back of our public education system. And my big concern is, as a beginning teacher in 1967, you know, if I had an issue with a student in the classroom, I dealt with it, with the child, with the parent. It was over. Going to the principal was a rare case.
Yeah.
Having to deal with central office staff because of student issues, that was almost non-existent.
Yeah.
But over the years, the family unit, as you referred to, is really deteriorated to the point where we really have to have a concerted effort to help families in crisis. I don't think anyone intentionally is a bad parent. There may be some cases like that, but most parents, I believe, in my experience, they want to do the right thing. But you know, with our entitlement society, you know, it's just so easy for parents to, you know, neglect their role and responsibility as a parent. And I think we've spent billions of dollars on high stakes testing, on rehab, on remediation, on better teacher training, better curriculum, and so on and so on and so forth. But the big thing we have ignored almost totally is the family's role in the education of the child and enforcing the state laws that say, you know, you're a parent, you're required to do these things for your children. And we're here to help you do that. And we're gonna give you provide all the resources that are currently all there, you know, in state government, in local government, in state agencies, in law enforcement, in the courts. Everything's there in nonprofits. But the problem has been everybody's doing their thing from their point of view, but very seldom do they all combine, you know, to help the family do what they need to do.
So what, tell me your question.
So
We're running
my
out of
question,
time.
yeah, I'm sorry. My question is what, I know right now we're focused on crime, okay, and I think that's
Yeah.
a huge issue. But what can we do as a local and state government to make sure that all the resources available are focused on each family to get to.
Okay.
to-
For education, you mean?
Yeah, for education.
Okay. All right, let me ask you a rhetorical question, but there's an answer, so please answer it if you know it. So, what is a company that you may interact with right here in Lafayette that gives what you would consider to be world-class customer service? Costco, okay. Any others? You mentioned Osmers, okay.
Dino's.
Dino's. Oh, sorry about that. I should have said that first. All right, what about Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
See, everybody gives Chick-fil-A an A+. I mean, you don't even have to wait to get to the window. The window comes to you, right? They do everything they can. Now, what is the secret of the success of Chick-fil-A? Is it the quality of chicken? Is it the grease that they fry the chicken in? Is it maybe the French fries? Is it the name? What is it that stands Chick-fil-A head and shoulders above all others?
Jesus Christ.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, that's a religious, spiritual one, but that's not a business economical answer. So give me the business economical answer.
Their corporate culture.
All kinds of people.
It's their corporate culture overall.
Okay, corporate culture. What else?
It's a devotion to excellence, their corporate culture,
And
in every way.
They reflect values of.
Customer service.
Basically, they're competing for your dollars, right? I mean, they have millions of dollars, billions of dollars of bills. They gotta pay those bills and they gotta pay the employees. And hopefully there's some money left over at the end of the day. Every business is out there competing for your dollars, okay? Schools get lots of money, millions, billions of dollars. Do they compete for anything? There's no competition whatsoever. So, just about everything that you consume, whether it's clothing, whether it's cars, food, whatever, the people who create that try to make it better and better because they're trying to get ahead of their competitors. So the problem I would submit to you, it's not lack of resources. We keep pouring more and more money into education. We have poorer and poorer results. We do not hold schools accountable for giving us good results. Remember that when we began to see our public schools go down in the 70s, what did we do as a solution to the problem? Remember what happened in the 70s under Jimmy Carter? We created the Department of Education. That was going to be the end-all solution.
The government solved it.
No, it was stood up under Carter. And has education improved or gotten worse since standing up? See? So the answer the government always gives you is more bureaucracy, more bureaucracy. And so the one thing we don't have in our school system today is competition. Any other kind of entity, if you're not taking care of your customers, the end users, you're going to go out of business. That's not true in schools. What happened is the schools say we need more money, and they get it. Now, it doesn't go to the teachers. Teachers are underpaid. It goes into wherever. I don't know, administrators. Somehow it makes its way into things. But the point is, they're not run streamlined. If we're ever going to solve our educational problem, K-12, it's going to require school choice. And Texas is debating that now. So far, they haven't been able to get it through, but they'll eventually get it through. I think Arizona may be the first that's actually accomplished that. But the best way to sort out the sheep from the goats is to find the ones that are doing the job and they're doing it well, and the funds go to them, and the ones that don't. You heard me say early on that we're bringing in open.gov, and they're going to actually take the data from the schools and put it up for you, the consumer, to know everything, how much money's going to these schools, how much costs per student. Everything you need to know about that is going to be available to you.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
I go to school board meetings and I've been doing it for over 10 years, just to pay attention. Nobody pays me because I care about our
Sure.
system. It's not just the administration at our school system, it's the parents too. So we need cooperation from the parents and the schools. We need to realize it's a partnership. They don't own our kids, they are our children. They need to partner with us, and we need to partner with them.
Yeah. With the decline of the culture and the families, government is taking a bigger and bigger role, and oftentimes going the wrong direction, right? We talked about that, transgender surgery. So you see what's happened in Virginia, and some of those things have been improved. The point is that, yeah, there are problems there as well. But ultimately, parents should be responsible and accountable for their kids. And I think most parents will do the right thing and send their kids to the schools that are actually successful, and the dollars will follow them to those schools.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. It is after 1 o'clock. I know Carol's going to sneak out because she's got to be on the radio in a minute. So, no speeding tickets, Carol.
Can't sneak out anywhere.
All right, so I think that's going to be it. We're going to wrap it up. So thanks for coming out in the very first Ronald Reagan Newsmaker Luncheon in Lafayette. And John, you can hang out for a minute if somebody wants to chat with you on the side.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk if somebody wants to chat afterwards. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Can we close with a word of prayer? Dexter, could you close us out?
Father, thank you so much for your presence in the room. Father, thank you for loving us first and giving us your Son, Jesus. We love you, we honor you, we praise you. And Lord, just continue to put on our hearts, Lord, what you would have us do in this world, Father. Thank you for giving us just the courage and the peace and the understanding, the wisdom to do your work, Father. We love you and we honor you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.